Hello, this is John with Theology Ed. This is part 52 of the iPad Go to Explain series, and we're going to make this a quick one. This is about Trump and the Mar-a-Lago raid, and that Mar-a-Lago raid, which of course was on August 8th, 8/8, which in the past you've seen a lot of uh, information related to Trump. Looking at that 8/8. So 88 or 8/8 being important in relation to Trump. And this may be the event that triggers an indictment that will then trigger some of the unfortunate violence that may end up happening. And I really hope that doesn't. I'm against violence in this. I don't think it's going to help anything. In fact, I think it's what uh, people who want control over us and over you want. And this is coming from somebody who is, if you've watched my videos over the last couple of years, I am not a supporter of Trump. I am not a supporter of Biden. I'm not a supporter of the current political system and options. Um, but I think that the solution is not a violent one. I'm going to wait it out. I think they're going to self-destruct, and God will take care of it. So what we have here is iPad Go 2 and Trump. You remember going all the way back to before the solstice eclipse in 2020, the annular eclipse on June 21st, which was then followed by the buck moon, which was also an eclipse date on July 4th, 5th in 2020. That period was a period of transition to enter a more active phase of their attack on the existing world order. And if you look at iPad Go 2, it's an attack on what was left of the Eon of Osiris, resurrection religion, death and resurrection religion, culture, and so on. Basically, the end of the Christian era. So they're moved to attack whatever is left of the Christian era in their minds, so they can bring in their world order, the Eon of Horus, in its sort of purity. Um, and that's what iPad Go 2 is about. And figuring into this big plan is Trump and the destruction of the United States in relation to one another. We started to talk about Trump before this eclipse, all the way back here on June 4th, at least, of 2020, I had this video posted, the failed assassination attempt on Trump. Is it coming in July? And in that video, we talked about the possibility of an actual attack on Trump, physical. But in the video, I said, but it may not be physical at all, maybe a political attack. And as I moved on, before that June 21st date, I had come to the conclusion that it probably is not a physical attack, but that it is a political attack, and that maybe the shot taken at Trump that sort of gets things moving in this period of transition would not be a very significant one. I called it a pea shooter, right? The shark attack that we said, like a pea shooter that goes at him and barely hurts, barely does anything, may not do anything. But the shot is important. Was a shark attack from John Bolton in a book that he published on June 23rd, which would then lead to uh, some sort of whatever those consequences would be for Trump, right? And well, this was very early, and now we have hindsight. Hindsight's 2020. We can see a lot better what's going on and where we're at. So let's go ahead and do a little review, and then we'll talk about what's going on with this Mar-a-Lago raid. So back here we have the classroom calendar. And of course, Trump is in the calendar. This is the 2020 calendar. So we had January, February, March, and so on from left to right, the months, with the annual eclipse depicted in the middle between June and July. So it's a June eclipse, followed by, at the beginning of July, the buck moon. And then with the Trump character here in March, and out of Trump, this video, remember, was published in 2012. So long before Trump was president, and long before 2020, it was depicted the 2020 calendar with Trump here as March, and out of Trump comes the lockdown. We had a little lockdown in China in January, but the world lockdowns and the lockdowns in the United States took off in March after the World Health Organization's declaration of a pandemic on the 11th of March, 3/11. And so those lockdowns, represented by the barbed wire here, show us when things got a little better, a little worse with the lockdown. So April was really rough, face scraped up, two wires in front of him. July, remember, it ramped up in July again, 4th of July, apocalypse stuff. Then it diminished a bit in the December, heated up again of the winter, in the winter. And so we have these lockdowns and we have the calendar. But Trump is here in March, and he is also in the calendar 2020 because he is the third president. We had the first president in the sequence from 2020 up to the this apocalyptic period. He's depicted in Bush. Then we get Obama, and where's Trump in the classroom? Of course, we just saw there he is in March. So you can see that's clearly Trump. You have the comb over. You got the position he sits in all the time, and the fact that it would be the March and the lockdown comes out of him. It all matches perfectly. And then when you go outside the classroom, we get another reference to Donald in relation to the division of the United States. Look, there he is. Donald. Donald. All the characters written in Psalm 23, the word Psalm 23, excuse me, I'm a little sick. Psalm 23 are written in a way so that you can also make out the word Donald. So the S is tilted sideways and written in a way that the top loop makes an O. Pretty clever. So you get the D out of the P, the O there, right, and so on. That took effort. That is clearly saying Donald. And it's in relation to the torn flag directly below the doomsday clock. You're getting at the doomsday events when you get close to the destruction and the lightning bolt that comes out of Donald, if you want to think of it that way. Okay? Now, Donald was supposed to come under attack, according to IPECO 2. Remember the shot taken at the buck back here? Well, we also have Donald represented as the buck. See the antlers from the buck coming out of Donald's head? As she raises her head, this is a symbol of the eclipse rising or separating, right? We had it in the scene just before. You had the O over the O, and the O's separate up to where you have the buck. So it goes from annular eclipse to the buck. It's the buck, the antlers, right? Okay, there they are. It separates O over O, sun and moon, or whichever is which, and it goes over up here to the buck. Then immediately it goes to her head rising at the exact same speed as the eclipse did. Her head rises, and the moon back here is the buck moon, and it's actually Trump's head. So the shot taken at the buck is being depicted as a shot taken at Trump. Now that's not a stretch. We have the attack, the shark attack, going against what? A president. Not a president. Who would be the next president? It'd be Trump. And out here, you actually have Trump depicted in the scene right outside of the classroom, where his head, you get to profile Trump in the clouds with a bullet going in his direction. Right? It's a shot taken at Trump, and this is right here to the side of it. That is those twin towers that are falling. Here's the shot taken at Trump. That is going to lead to the division of the United States, but it's not a bullet necessarily. I guess you could still have violence against him directly, but what's led to all this division so far, and is still going to, still moving in this direction, is political. So when I made this video about Bolton, remember we have the shot. Here's the bunny again. In the shot, a shark made like a shark, but also a gun. See the mouth like a shark, and the shot goes in the direction of the bunny, and it hits. The shark attack against Trump, I think, started with the Bolton book. And remember, Bolton's book was supposed to be released June 23rd. Actually, before then, but it kept being postponed because Trump was battling it legally. Trump was also claiming that, and this is very interesting in relation to the Mar-a-Lago raid, that Bolton should be basically arrested and his book should be prohibited from being published because it's releasing classified information from the administration, what they were doing. Okay, so classified information. And with the Mar-a-Lago raid, what was it all about? Well, he's got this classified information that he's been holding on to, and he previously was calling for the arrest. You've seen this in the news, arrest of people in prison for people who have basically violated policies and laws in relation to the use of classified information. So right here, the Justice Department described the book as a 500 plus page tome rife with classified information. That's what they were trying to stop the book from being released for. And Trump was making arguments against this. Now Trump is in trouble for the exact same thing, right? That's what they're saying. Uh, and what we Bolton in this the Street Sharks TV show from I guess the '90s, which was after Bolton was already a political figure. He was in the Reagan administration. The name of the lead shark is John Bolton, the smartest, the leader, the oldest of the four brothers, and so on. Okay, John Bolton was a shark. So the shark attack against Trump began, it seems like, with this. And this is when, roughly, this period, roughly, Trump went from leading in the race, leading in the polls, according to the mainstream media, to being behind, according to the media reports, in the summer and fall of 2020. And then he lost the election in November, popular vote. And then on December 14th, 2020, that was the eclipse date and the rollout of the therapy. The exact same date was the date that he lost the electoral college vote. And sorry about the dogs. And that was that period after the annular eclipse. The annular eclipse covered that period up to the next solar eclipse, and it was all preparation for the downfall of Trump. And that's why you start that annular eclipse period, June 23rd, with the attacks of Trump. Now, this has continued. At the time, I was looking for something maybe a little faster. I guess it actually happened, right? He lost the election and all that. But this has continued because after that, we went to what, January 6th. That was the Capitol incident and all those protests and riots, they call it, and it's such a big deal they're making out of. And then that continued until now, where we're still seeing the sort of fallout from everything that's been happening in the last 2 years with Trump at that election period. Now he's held on to this classified information, allegedly, and the FBI has raided this, went to get this information from him under Biden's command, basically. Okay, order coming from the president's president himself, from the administration. Okay, what you're getting now is early but more intense partisan conflict, right? This is third worldish. This is the sort of thing where one party goes after the other party using the actual power of the judicial system and justice departments and so on, arresting them, trying to get them locked up, and eliminated from the political conversation and sphere. And that's what we're saying. And this is going to continue getting worse, it looks like, because what comes after this, so there he is getting these classified documents they found. So what's going to be happening here is a possible indictment. Now, you remember the iPad Go 2 schedule is what? In 2022, we've entered the year of the tiger. We're in the moving in the active phase. We started with the NATO events. We're seeing Russia and Ukraine and basically a proxy war in Russia. We're seeing this dark winter being prepared for, with Russia turning off the gas to Europe. They're going to stop giving their oil over to Europe, or whatever it is. Oil or gas? I think it's gas lines, right? So Europe is going to be in a world of hurt this winter if this continues. That conflict is heating up. We also see in Taiwan and China, they're starting to heat up. Tensions there are rising. Possible conflict at some point. Israel with Iran recently has been in the news. Syria, right? We're seeing all these things escalating. We're also seeing the political stuff escalating. We're also seeing health problems related to the various treatments that have been released, right? So we're starting to see monkeypox. We're also seeing these unknown cause of deaths. These sudden deaths are taking off, right? So what a lot of these things are starting to accelerate. And I'm going to make a video about monkeypox here soon. I have another one in relation to iPad Go 2 that's, I think, interesting and important. And we'll see it, but it's on the same schedule, because what we're going towards now is the Scorpio season, which is going to be, October, November, when the shot taken from the sun hits the pyramid. Remember the pyramid at the end of IPIC 2? Let me see. Do I have IPIC 2 open somewhere? Oh, looking. That's what I'm going to look at that. That's what I was going to do. So let's go to the end. I'll talk about that scene in my next video, probably one of my next two videos. So we go to the end here, and here we have the scene at the end, right? So we're going to watch these. They're there. So we got 1, 2, 3 rings. That's the third eclipse. That's December 14th, 2020. That's when the when Trump lost the Electoral College vote and the rollout of the therapy started in the U.S. Now we're going to watch the fourth ring, which is December 4th, 2021. That's the fourth solar eclipse in this period. There it is. Now, as it spreads out, after that, a little bit after, a shot is taken. The shot's going to hit the pyramid in Scorpio. Okay, that would be October, November, at least as I take it. That'll either be this year, 2022, or 2023 before the fifth eclipse, which is in 2025. But if you look, it's at sort of the beginning part. I think it's this year. So I think it's with this election cycle. It's also with the November 8th lunar eclipse date. Probably monkeypox is going to have taken hold to where they think it can't be stopped anymore by that time, roughly. Maybe. It's also probably when an indictment will be brought against when Trump will be indicted. Now let me show you that. Now I'm not saying that I'm no promise here, but that's I think a real threat here. Let me get to the right. Here it is. Okay, if you look under long-standing department policy, prosecutors are barred from taking investigative steps or filing charges for the purpose of affecting an election or helping a candidate party traditionally 60 days before an election. This year, that would be September 10th. So if they don't indict him by September 10th, he probably will not be indicted until when? Which makes it unlikely anything would be announced until after November 8th. So there are three possibilities. One, they indict him really soon, here in the next few days. Or two, they violate their policy and indict him maybe even in October, sort of an October surprise, uh, right before the election. That would really stir things up because not only are they indicting him, which is already a huge deal, they're indicting him in violation of their department policy, long-standing department policy, in a way that will likely influence the election for other candidates who are supported by Trump or support Trump. Okay, and so that would really stir things up. So you may even see it as an October surprise event, or probably most likely it happens right after the election, or in which case they would follow the policy, but would still be roughly in that period of time where we're going to see the Scorpio attack. This is what leads to, this could be what leads to in the scattered union this is the violence that happens in the second year after the controversial election. So this is 2 years after the 2020 election, which was very controversial between Trump and Biden. Now, and contested. And now 2 years later, in the Shattered Union trailer, that's when the pockets of violence start to, the little event, domestic violence and terrorism a little bit starts to take off. They'll probably accuse the MAGA folks of some domestic terrorism after this, whether or not that's actually happening. False flag attacks are possible, whatever. They've already said that this is, if there's, Dick Cheney, if there's violence, it's the Republicans' fault, or other people saying that this violence is likely if there's an indictment again, if Trump is indicted, right? So they're already setting that up. That would get us some of that, and then 2023, according to the Shattered Union, that's when you would actually see pockets of martial law in different parts of the country starting to show up, and it gets worse and worse until finally you have a full civil war between 2024 and 2026 if that schedule in the Shattered Union is followed. Now, but either way, what we're watching is this Trump indictment, the shot against Trump that leads to the division of the United States that started all the way back in 2020, gradually leading to his defeat in the election, then defeat in the Electoral College vote, then finally his attempt to overturn the election with the assistance of his vice president being, denied him. and then all the remember by the time the inauguration was happening, there was 20,000 National Guard or something in Washington D.C. and all. Okay, so this has been a gradual rollout of the Trump defeat, leading to a civil conflict possibly, and real civil unrest. And what we see here as well is Trump is still supposedly calling for a new election or to be reinstated as president, and people are saying he's unhinged and all that. But we're watching. This is all related to the election still. This goes back to the political attack against Trump that began roughly around the time of the annual eclipse of the buck moon. We didn't miss. We hit, and we got that right. And so what we're looking at is IPECO 2 unfolding before our eyes, and it very may well be, very well could be, that this is one of maybe two or three things that happen around November that could be that shot against the pyramid at the end of IPECO 2. And remember, it doesn't all happen in a day. Those pyramids are falling. Let's see if I can find that again. There's watch. It's going to hit, and watch how long they fall. As this ring is going out, they're falling all the way to the next ring, which is like a year and a half or so. Look, here it goes. They start to crumble. It's falling. Now it's going to go out. The debris is going to hit the next pyramid, so we get one. It's like a chain reaction. Then another one starts to fall. This one hasn't even fallen yet. This is after the April 2024 eclipse, all the way well past 2024. And that's how it ends. So it goes all the way probably to 2025, 26. Who knows? But those pyramids, they're collapsing, and they begin their collapse. It looks like in Scorpio after the 2021 December 4th eclipse. So the Scorpio after that is the Scorpio of 2023. So October to November 2023, the shot hits, and that begins again. It's a chain reaction. It begins a chain reaction that leads to the end. This is where it accelerates. All right, that's all. That's all I got. Like, subscribe, share, and take care. Blessings.